What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Sales Bro Pod. This time around, we've got Sales Bro Marcos, agency owner, runs the Twitter agency. I don't know, do you call it a ghostwriting agency or?
But I don't mind calling it a ghostwriting agency. I feel like there was like this weird patch where everybody was shitting on ghostwriting. So like people stopped calling themselves that. I always make fun of it. I remember like some of these bigger guys started making ghostwriting agencies, and they started calling them like your personal writing assistant, like your content, your fractional content CM. I'm like, bro, just stop beating around the bush. I feel like it makes you look worse. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
absolutely a ghostwriting agency. Of course, we do more stuff, but yeah, no shame in it at all.
yeah. That's how I feel about the high ticket sales.
Yeah,
I call it a few different things, but at the end of the day, like there's just some people in the market on both sides, like giving it a bad rap. But
100%.
anyways, there's good reason why I asked you to come on because you've been able to do some awesome things over the years, and you've gone through quite the journey, like a lot of us have. And I think it's pretty interesting. And you and I have chatted about how you ended up where you are. But for those, and I'll let you kind of give the intro as you would say it as well. But for those that don't know who Marcos is, he's running an agency. They're really big into Twitter, and they now are doing stuff on other platforms as well. I'm working with Marcos right now off a good recommendation. We've also helped a lot of people get connected with sales jobs through Marcos. So this is a guy that I've known for, I mean, maybe a year now. Like we haven't been working together for a year, but like we've been back and forth for a year. So gotten to know you, your business pretty well. And I thought this guy knows a thing or two about sales, running an agency. Got to have him on. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's my first time being on like a sales audience podcast, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity because not a lot of people know that I kind of started as a quote unquote high ticket sales guy. Like back in the day, I was a success coach in like a trading program. This was before people called it like info products or anything like that. It was like OG, 2018 info space. Pretty much, no one really knew what was going on. It was like everyone was using ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
So I was a success coach, but that job was essentially a setter and closer and success coach all wrapped in one. So I was doing all of that with like the affiliate marketing all wrapped into one role. Cause back then they didn't have, nowadays you have the CSM, you got a setter, you got a closer. It's like very cut and dry. They kind of made the industry. Back then it wasn't like that. So, I was in effect doing all those roles. I was doing cold calling, but it was all wrapped into one position. So yeah, man, I'm super excited to be on.
Yeah. And now you've seen, I mean, you have that experience, but now you are seeing inside of a lot of these big coaching offers you guys are driving traffic to. And, when you're getting paid on performance and cash collected, like you're pretty incentivized to make sure that the sales team is doing what they should be doing. They got all the right pieces in place, they're performing. So I'm sure there's a lot of valuable insight. I mean, I've seen you've shared some like SOPs and trainings and stuff with me that prove that hey, you kind of know what you're doing when it comes to this. So
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have a choice. Like, one thing that I realized pretty early on was that like people can't afford content agencies unless they make money from them. I think you start to see more of that now where a lot of content guys are starting to try and turn it more into a funnel. That's ultimately what you have to do. So, we early on, I remember our first client in the info space, he was paying us like 4K a month. And we were essentially just making him go viral over and over again. And they already knew how to monetize it. So they ended up making like 90, 100, 130, 137 cash collected was their highest month, 137K. Which is kind of how I built my messaging of like, we'll scale you to 100K a month because we did it by accident. And then I started realizing other clients did not know how to monetize the same way. So, and those guys had gone through a bunch of like big sales courses and they've had like really high octane trained setters, trained closers. So I was like, okay, how do I fill this gap? So I had to basically teach myself everything, from the setting and the closing and build scripts and tracking and a lot of things that come from the operation side. But yeah, I had to kind of like teach myself that because like you said, it's you kind of need the sales stuff in addition to going, all the content. How many people do you know, and how many offers have you been on where they get tons of leads, tons of book calls, and they just don't close, or they just like don't have a good funnel, they don't have a good show rate, like all sorts of stuff can kill your business.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm kind of on the other side of that. Like we focus on the sales stuff with the agency, but like the more that we do this, the more people we partner with, like the more that I learn about marketing and what's right and what's wrong and what's going to work to get or to allow us to get the results we need to get. Um, what's your what is that experience like? Like you're responsible in a sense, not responsible, but you do rely on things that are downstream from you. Whereas like with us for sales, like a lot of what we rely on is upstream. And like, both of us, we rely on the results on the back end to funnel back to marketing and all that. But like, what does that feel like to basically, you have to kind of really trust somebody to do their part of it after you do
Yeah.
your job 110%. I don't know.
Honestly, it could be frustrating. Like you're an agency owner now as well, and like you'll start to see this, but it could be frustrating. Like if you do your job really well and then nothing actually comes of it. I've had clients literally gain 70,000, 50,000, 60,000 followers in like a few months and not break even on our service. And I'm
Yeah.
like that at that point it becomes incompetence. It's like it's purely just like there's obviously something wrong with your sales process, right? You know what I mean? Like you could be not trying and make a ton of money from that amount of traction, and it's
Yeah.
all on brand. It's all on brand content, and there's we track inbound leads for this reason too, so we could track like if the content is generating leads, and it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of inbound leads, and I'm like, come on, something. I mean, you've probably seen it, so it can be frustrating. But then the other side of that is that when someone comes to us um, and they're just like already dialed, like we have a mutual friend who we work with now, and they came to us and they're just like super dialed already before they signed with us in terms of the sales process, and they already are doing content right. We're kind of just stepping in, taking it off their hands and adding fuel to the fire and making them go viral. And it's like dialed, like tons of booked calls, tons of sales. So yeah, I think it could be annoying if you have to rely on to circle back to if you have to rely on some of that downstream stuff. Um, but it could also it's a double-edged sword. It could also be super rewarding. Like we have clients who don't even like log into Twitter. We have clients who we talk to for like 30 minutes a month because
Yeah.
they're so dialed. And then on the other side, we have clients who are a complete and total headache because it's like they can't convert anything. So yeah, blessing and a curse. I think that's the nature of percentage based agencies.
Yeah. How much faster on average do you guys see results, like pretty significant results for people that already have a dialed system in place and they're really just outsourcing the production and the distribution of the content versus someone who like maybe they've done something awesome and they're like, hey, I want to start a coaching program or I want to start a
Yeah.
service. Like how much longer would that take to help that person?
So the guys who come on with, I've had a couple of really great successful guys, and of course some complete flops who come to us with like more of an idea and like I want to grow this. I'm under 10K a month, something like that. They maybe have done just some one-on-one. The guys who succeed, usually in the first few months, they can kind of build enough to sustain, and then that way over time we get enough traction to scale hard. I've had some take anywhere from like 4 to 5 months. I've had other guys come with dead audiences and go straight to 10K in like the first day from like at zero.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of like make it like more of a sustainable on the info product side, like at least 3 to 4 months, um, versus the guys who come on that have already doing it. Um, those guys, it's nice because they can come in, they're already sustaining like a decent amount of sales. There's a lot less pressure, and like we get more opportunity to kind of figure out how to scale them because those guys could be. I've had some guys come to us that have like hundreds of thousands of followers and they want us to pick it up. But sometimes when those guys come on, they're so already like dialed in on their content. I'm like, we're not going to come in and just give like a one for one. So
Yeah.
they're just, even if they're growing, they don't like it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's super nuanced. I sometimes I'm not great at answering some of these questions because I always give like the most nuanced back and forth answer. There's never like an absolute,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel with a lot of the sales stuff and people coming to me on both sides, like the sales reps who want to get into remote sales and then the agency, like clients, like every answer depends on probably 5 or 7 things that's unique to them to where it is hard to give like one size fits all answers. But um, I don't know, dude, these businesses are, there's a lot of moving parts, right? But if you can crack them, like you said, I'm running the agency now. You've been running an agency for a while. Uh, if you can crack them, like they're pretty lucrative. Just get the right people in place so you don't lose your mind.
Yeah, I think like finding the right people is 100% it. Like agency life for me, I mean, I'd say the first 6 months it boiled up to that point where I was like a pot of coffee. I had a pot of a literal. I don't know if you've seen the company Smeg. It's like this like retro branding coffee makers and appliances. So I had this like $250 retro coffee maker with like a pot. So I'd make a full pot of Bustelo espresso style coffee at 6 a.m. every day when I was living in my studio in Brooklyn. And I'd wake up and I'd just write for like 6 hours and drink a pot of coffee. I'd work out, I'd come back, and then I'd take sales calls and client calls from 12 to basically 6, 7. And I did
Yeah,
that every day for like 90 days straight. I was like unbelievable burnout. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I understand why people quit the agency thing.
yeah,
So then I started hiring, and that's when it gets fun. It's when you hire and you're working with people you like, and it's more of like a team thing. Because an agency can just you could do so many things with it because you have so much feedback loop with your clients that there's so many other products and services that you could start to add and softwares, and you could do like meetups and all sorts of cool sick stuff. So
yeah,
but yeah, agency could be a grind, but again, it's all about finding the right people, the right salespeople, which is why I just basically stopped hiring off of Twitter and just started hiring people in the sales in the serial sales community because I'm like every time I put out a tweet to hire, it's like 99% like horrible quality.
yeah.
But then if you go through a community of people that are like more like vetted, um, it's so much easier. So that's why I find the right people more through you guys than anything.
Yeah, it's all about expectation setting too, man. Because like for you, example, you hire like content writers, right? And to hire some, like if you go on Indeed and you say, "Hey, I need a content writer," and then you're gonna get a bunch of people that like they probably went to school for some like creative degree and they think that they're qualified. Whereas
Yeah,
I don't know where you found the guys that you have, but they're probably hopefully already versed in like Twitter
yeah,
specific content and like it's a
yeah.
completely different league. Same with the salespeople. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I think you have to, and hiring is like not hiring is basically the most important thing once you get your basic needs met and you could hit like 10K a month, whatever. After that, like hiring is going to be the literal skill that separates a 10K a month and a fucking billionaire. Like actually, I read this from Eric Sue, who's an 8-figure agency owner, and the last thing that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk outsourced were like hiring. I think Elon Musk was hiring. I think it set up to 2,000 employees, and Bezos was up to like 4,000. They have a hand in the hiring, rather. It's basically the last thing you'll ever outsource as a CEO, which is you could extrapolate that to it's the skill that gets you to whatever your monetary goal is, whatever it is. And I have had some. I mean, at this point, I'm not going to call it luck, but I've had some really good hires. Like I've only the only person I've only had to fire one person ever, and it was honestly my fault for hiring him in the first place. I just didn't need the role. It wasn't because he was bad.
yeah,
But yeah, I think you have to go to the source. Like if I want a sales guy, now I go to a sales community. If I want a Twitter writer, I'm gonna go on Twitter.
yeah,
It's kind of like dating. Like if you want a girl, like you need to get off Twitter, right? Like you need to go to the bar or something.
yeah,
So I think it's if you want to meet someone like minded, go to the gym, etc. So I think it's kind
yeah.
of like that.
Dude, that's actually one of my least favorite things to do, and I don't know why. I think you like. Have you ever gone through a stint? You said you did get lucky, but you ever start interviewing for a role and everyone you talk to is like not what you're looking for and you start getting like discouraged and you're like, dude, like I'm wasting time, like I'm burning time away here. Uh,
Yeah. I've I think my thing is that I prioritize culture before I even look at anything. So I won't even interview people who aren't a culture fit. So like one thing that I do is I ask for people's personality type before. I'm gonna get like DEI sued here, but I ask for people's personality type beforehand. So I know that the writers that I need to hire have to be a certain personality type that I'm not gonna dox on this podcast. But
Yeah.
like that's like straight up like if you can figure out make everyone on your team take personality tests, you might find correlations. What I found is that all my writers are the same kind of personality, the same letters in the personality tag. So I was like, okay, now I could just filter all my applications for this. And if I find them on Twitter, and if I just like look through their stuff and kind of see that, okay, they're kind of a homie, like they're interested in this, I can quickly find like it's narrowed down to like two or three people already. I got lucky with my most recent hire, or my second to most recent hire was a referral. The previous two have the same personality type. My ops team is all referral, so I think if you have referrals from within your team, they are gonna just do the culture fit for you because they wouldn't refer you someone that they don't want to work with.
Yeah.
So that's a great kind of two great hacks for hiring that I think. I mean, I invented the first one for sure,
Yeah.
yeah, I think they're pretty good.
That's super. I haven't dove into that stuff so much, like the personality test. I've taken them before, like for old jobs where I was a sales guy, and I remember, and more people should use this, I guess. But I remember I was like the top rep. I was in roofing sales, and I took that quiz, and they were like, "We need to go find more people that match Dylan's results." But I was going to say too, I've seen it. I've seen one other person do it, and it was funny. It was Taylor Welch was hiring a salesperson for like 200, 300K per year, like a big time sales role for this newer company that he has. And he was like, click here to apply. And the application was just a personality test. Like
Interesting.
it wasn't like
Okay, so I
submit your
didn't invent it.
resume.
Sorry, Taylor.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know who started doing it first, but
Yeah,
um,
well, I
I'm,
think you know what it is. It's one of those. It's one of those answers. You ever have those things? You might have seen them a lot on Twitter, where like everybody comes to like the same realizations equally, and like everyone kind of thinks it's unique, but everyone comes to this realization at a certain level. It might just be one of those things. Like I feel like everyone realizes certain things as they level up in the business game, so it might just be one of those.
yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's super true, man. Like I've hired, between my partner and I, we have about 30 contractors under us in our agency now across all the teams. And like I've had a say in hiring all those people. And like you do start to see a lot of common traits amongst like closers specifically or setters specifically, management, um, that I mean, so much of it, man. Like I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I feel like just off that culture check, the vibe check in the beginning, like you hop on a call with them, ask them 5 questions or so, and you can pretty quickly tell, like, is this someone that I even want to consider spending time with, or is this someone that I want my clients like being in touch with, right? So, how
Yeah.
I think a cool way to take this is, this is Sales Bro Pod. You've been doing all your own sales for forever. I don't know if you've ever had
Yeah,
a
years.
salesperson.
No, and I won't. It's one of the big agency tips that I've gotten from eight-figure agency guys is founder sales is basically like you could be doing founder sales forever. I think Gary Vee still like well at a certain point, like if Coca-Cola is like I want to work with you, it's going to be Gary Vee who flies to the office.
Yeah, interesting. Have
Yeah.
you tried to hire a salesperson just out of like trying to protect your time or no?
I had a so the role that I alluded to earlier was a BDR. So I've had a setter BDR, but I've never had a guy who jumps on the calls for me. I just like it's so high ROI. It's like my LTV is like 25, 50, 100 grand. It's like I think it's worth it for 45 minutes. I do one call closes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where we're at. Like we have a guy that helps us. Uh, he can run some of the sales calls, but like I don't know if I'll ever be to the point where I'm just not on the calls at all, especially for the big clients, like the potential
Yeah.
full done for you sales team clients. Like there's just
Yeah.
so like I've gone through 3 years of figuring this stuff out that like you can't I mean, maybe you can, but it's very hard to train somebody on how to do that,
You just
given that
can't.
everything is so
It's
custom.
you can't, dude. Like, maybe there's going to be people who close for agencies and listening to this, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, you can," but I know too many agency owners doing like a mil a month plus that are still selling. It's just
Yeah,
like I just don't see it. Like, I think if you have an offer stack and you have like you said, like a full dump for you offer at the peak, and then you have some like lower tier offers, like a 4,800 consulting offer and stuff like that, like you could have sales guys for those lower tier offers, and then you do the highest tier. I think that's probably where most people will land. Like I imagine at VaynerMedia, if a startup is coming and they're trying to get like the base minimum services, Gary Vee's not jumping on that call. But again,
yeah,
if it's, if Elon Musk needs to run a Tesla campaign and Elon Musk himself wants to talk to Gary Vee, guess what? He's talking to Gary Vee, right?
yeah,
So I think there's probably some nuance as always. But yeah, again, it's one of the highest ROIs things. And now for me, I know we did a little bit of operations talk in the past, but like I have the ops department, the creative department, and I'm basically the head of sales and the head of marketing. So it's like, what else would I be
yeah.
doing?
That's where, I mean, I think starting the agency, dude, like I naturally, a lot of our business was referred to us through referrals, through people that we had either worked with or knew of or whatever. Um, and I like fell into the role by default of just like operating. And now as I'm kind of like starting to get my head above water now, I do see myself being most valuable, probably marketing and sales. Because I mean, one, personal brand is definitely, it attracts clients, but like, I don't know, dude. Like you get the operations figured out to a certain extent, then it's just like drive
Yeah.
more traffic, right?
Yeah, I think that's something I'm like notorious for coming on these podcasts and talking about other people, so bear with me here, but like that's what I learn a lot from like Gary Vee is just the way I learn a lot from the way he moves. I know a lot of people like to shit on him, but as an aside, I think everyone goes through their phase where it's like as a complete beginner, you love these like big guys like Gary Vee, and then there's a point where you think you're too cool for everybody, and you think like, Gary Vee stuff sucks, it's not valuable. But then you hit a certain level, like at my level, I always watch Gary Vee because I don't study what he's saying, I just study how he's moving. And I think he's
Mm.
a beast. But like again, there's no substitute for brand. I mean, his brand is closing him basically Fortune 500 companies on autopilot. So I think for you, even B2C and B2B, I think the brand is going to be everything for you. Like you'll
Yeah,
typically just have you'll have guys who are going to see you for B2C and B2B content at all times. Like you'll have
yeah,
essentially your low ticket, which is your B2C, and your high ticket, which is your agency. I mean, look at even Hormozy's doing it, right? Like he's slinging these like 5K tickets to workshops, and then he has a private equity firm in the back end. So
yeah,
it's just personal brands everything right now. I mean, that's the thesis of my agency. So obviously I'm biased, but it's just like it's all that matters.
yeah.
Like
When when you when we send you salespeople, or when you get salespeople from anywhere, are you just like do you pass them through to clients to interview, or do you interview? And if so, like if they reach out over Twitter, if they reach out over Instagram or something like that, like do you look at profiles? Do you look to see if like they're posting about what they're doing? And like how does that play a part in it all?
to be honest, so I don't do the interviews almost never anymore. My clients will typically give me a way to connect. So I'll either send it to them via text. I'll usually ask one of these guys for their text. Like if you, like the most recent closer you sent me, I asked for his phone number, connected with my client, and he said he found an offer already because you guys clearly have too many offers in your sales community. But like they'll ask for like a text referral or an email referral. But what I do honestly, if I get a lot, I click their profile, I look at their profile picture, and that's the first thing I'm like, nope, yep, nope, yep. Like I've
Yeah,
had guys that their profile picture is just absolutely obnoxious, and I just xed out
yeah,
because I have to protect my clients, right? And I just know what I know. So that's number one. I read their bio, I read their location, I look at their header, and I look at their first few tweets 100%. Like if your bio is like a mirror selfie and your header is like to be honest, a lot of these guys, if their header is like girls in Lambos or anything like that, I'll just not send them.
yeah,
But that's just because my clients are actually like all like 40 and like have kids, and I just know they're not going to be a culture fit. So you have
yeah,
to, if I was a sales guy and I was trying to be smart about it, I would take my personal brand serious. And you don't have to look like a suit and tie, right? That's probably just as bad, but have that like middle ground. I like your profile. It's just the middle ground. It's very chill.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. You don't really sell too much B2C like yourself, I guess. But one thing that I've seen to be a huge red flag in just like as soon as I see this, my perception of how competent they are goes down a lot. But the people that retweet those like cash giveaway things,
Bot,
and
yeah,
yeah, and
bot.
you scroll down, and it's like, all right, dude, tell me this was a one time thing, and it's like, Steve will do it. I'm giving away a Lamborghini, like whoever retweets this, and then you go down again, it's like that one politician. I don't know if he's a politician, but he's like always like giving away $500 or whatever. He's probably not a politician, but he's like an American dude. Um, Dude, those are always like I'd have to disqualify that person from anything that they're like.
My yeah, I have another my other red flag, and I would if I wasn't using my phone for the camera, I would totally just go through the DMs I have because my DMs are cooked with apps. But one of my big red flags is when someone reaches out for like a closer or setter role, and then you click their profile, and it's like a completely other thing. It's like a business. It's like I help agencies get clients with YouTube. I'm like, so you're not a closer, you're brand new. Like
Yeah,
you gotta be smart about it. You know what I mean? Like it's already a red flag for me when people change their offer every 3 months and they're selling something new every 3 months. So like as a closer, you come in and I see that you have some sort of business on the side. I'm like, why would I refer my client someone who's clearly not focused on this? It's just a
yeah,
red flag. So like it's just you gotta be smart about it, which the bar's in hell clearly because I feel like you probably tell your guys this, but like if you just do the default actions, shout out DK boys, like if you just do the default actions right, like you're already above 95% of people.
yeah. That's one thing. So I work one on one with everyone in the community as of right now, and like, dude, so much of the time is spent just like ironing out the basics of like being a good communicator, being a professional, and all that. Because immediately you're set so far ahead. Because a lot of other people getting into this space, they're coming off of a biz op where they're expecting the moon and the stars for like little work. So just setting proper expectations. But I was going to say, you mentioned, can't remember what exactly you mentioned that brought this to mind, but one of our guys in the community, um, enterprise sales, young dude, like he got in a like enterprise account executive role, which is, I think he's 24, 25. Um, but he hopped on with one of your clients that, not to dox, but he's a former tech sales guy himself. You might be able to connect the dots.
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, part time, he made like 6K last month, like part time, and he's about to quit his role and go all in because like he's like, I can make 15 here if I just work full time.
My
Um,
my yeah, you can finish. Sorry.
no, that was, I can't remember exactly how I was gonna, what you had said that prompted that, but I wanted to bring that up because it's like you're consistently sending through pretty solid opportunities to us.
Yeah,
So
I try not to reach out to you unless it's a good one because I know I have some clients who are just like not ready and they asked like they think they're ready. So if I have like a mid-tier offer, I'll usually go to the timeline, and if I have like a banger, I'm going straight to you for sure. But yeah, I have clients that are paying closers like closers and setters all in like 60, 70K a month. Last month, I had a client pay 60K to his sales team. It's nuts. It's so much money. It's like you just have to grab a piece of that. Yeah, and I know who you're talking about. It's like he's basically like the third closer on the round robin, just feeding off the scraps, and he's doing 6K. It's disgusting.
yeah,
I have some other clients who are. I have a few clients at that level now too, which is pretty nuts. But yeah, I think even as a part time role, I always say if I was starting over, I would go all in as a setter then closer and like do that in order. I think the setter to closer to agency funnel is probably like the most OP like 5 year plan ever. Like I do think so. I think I got sidetracked in my career. We didn't talk a ton about it, but like after that whole like setting closing thing that I did as a success coach back in like 2019, I did a little bit of like public speaking from there, and then I went into my first agency, which was like Amazon pay per click. Um, complete flop. Got like 1.5 clients and shut it down because I hated the fulfillment.
Yeah.
And then I've had a couple of agency. I had an IT consulting agency, which was no clients. I just did all the branding. And then I did like I did Facebook drop shipping, which I don't think is a thing anymore, but it used to be a thing. I made some decent money off of that. I did crypto, NFTs, honestly did really well there. But then when the market crashed, I was like, okay, let me start another agency. I have a marketing degree. I went to college. So I have a marketing degree. I am obsessed with Twitter already from crypto and just like soccer and like all the other shit you see on there. So I'm like, let's turn this into a skill. That's when I started doing freelance copywriting on Upwork. Found JK, the homie, was like the pioneer of ghostwriting back in the day, and went all in on ghostwriting a few years ago. And that was it. But I probably would have shaved off like 2-3 years if I just went all in as like a setter closer. But like I said, back in 2019, 2018, it wasn't called that. So those weren't
Yeah.
really things. Like nobody was talking about setting and closing like as words. It was more like a sales rep.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, it's like you said, part-time 6K is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, man. How come you obviously had like stacked all these skills, and a lot of people by default, I think they lean into uh, info products because easier to fulfill, um, usually higher margin, less ongoing client relationships. But it seems like you've opted into the agency stuff like time and time again. Like how do you think you ended up doing that versus like B2C info stuff?
Yeah, I just like didn't want to sling some sort of info product that I didn't like believe in. Um, trust me, like the devil's been on my shoulder in the past where it was like just teach people how to do ghostwriting and reach 10K a month. I ultimately boiled it down to the exit potential of an agency is much higher. Even if I don't want to exit, I just think like I get a much cooler culture and brand opportunity as an agency, or at least with the Birdhouse. So I feel like that's also part of it. And the second part, like agencies, you can exit for like 10, 15, 20x multiples when you hit 5 million in EBITDA. So like 10 mil revenue. So it's
Yeah.
like the exit potential of an agency is pretty insane, like 25, 50 mil, 100 mil exits. Not the same in info. Almost impossible to exit in info. You have to be one of the 1.01% to exit in info. I mean, outside of like Gym Launch, I've seen like 2 other decent exits.
Yeah.
Whereas agencies get exited every day.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, dude, the agency model is my experience doing both is it's a lot of work. It's super fulfilling. I think the agency model in the beginning is harder to get off the ground. B2C, like if you have an audience, dude, you can launch something and do well from the jump. Um,
Yeah.
but the agency stuff really does compound because transparently, a lot of people that run these B2C info offers, like the products aren't anything crazy. But with an agency, man, if you're doing good work, like the referrals, like I'm sure you get slammed with referrals as well.
Yeah.
Um,
It's about 50%, I'd say, of our marketing is just referrals, which is a lot.
yeah,
Um, but also like it's on that point is the one of the big reasons I like the agency is because I don't like sales. I don't do sales like that. I'm good at it, but I don't want to have to sell 5 times a day, more like 5 times a month. Um, and I've had clients that I've worked with since the inception, like 20 months in a row, still
yeah,
active clients to this day. I have like 4 or 5 clients who we've worked for literally forever. So like if I can just, my thought process from the beginning, and my team knows this, we've all talked about it, it's like if we could just find like 10 of those, we don't really have to do anything else. It's
yeah,
just write tweets, bro. You know what I mean? Like, so our whole business is set up in a way where we're trying to find like our favorite 10 to 20 people to work with,
mhm,
and then you just work with them forever.
yeah. That's the thing with info. Like it can be a little bit of a hamster wheel in acquiring new clients, but with the agency and we run it similar. It's like a lot of our business, a lot of our ongoing, billable commissions are off of like a revenue split. So we sell the client once and then we work with them for you know, as long as we can. And then if we want to make more money, like, is it higher leverage to focus on selling a new client or just like maximizing this one that we have? Which,
Yeah, I agree. And it's like exactly like you said, like for example, just so that the audience has math, like I have a client on one of my OG clients. We actually started on like a 1K retainer. He's on like a 3K retainer now, but we're making five figures in the commission, you know? So it's like the retainer doesn't matter anymore. It's like how much, how many clients do we have to now service to make that back? Like we have to sign two to three more clients just to do that, or we could just scale our current clients. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's 100% hamster wheel. I think nowadays, like people are starting to see the vision with adding, a lot of people are adding like LTV offers to the back end of their info, like monthly subscriptions and trying to get like MRR, which might help with the exiting. But yeah, the agency model, it's overpowered. I mean, you've seen it, like you send out 20, 30, 50K invoices. It's like, why was I doing info again?
yeah, it's crazy, man. I think, if you do have, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Like, you've seen some of these guys pushing TikTok Shop, and it's an awesome opportunity right now. But like, they monetize the B2C side and they monetize the B2B side, and they're like raking it in. It's like, hey, I have this community of 300 people paying monthly to get access to brands like yours. Like, pay us 20K. I'll send this post. We'll give them a discount and we'll push the hell out of your product. Like, I think that is a if you can strike the balance and deliver well on both ends, like that is an undefeated model. I mean, that's what like I do kind of.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly. I was about to say you can just help people find banger reps, and eventually they're like, I don't really want to manage the sales side. Can you do it? And now you have. I mean, we have. I mean, I have like some low ticket courses, and I do take some consulting calls on the side. It's not like a significant portion of our revenue, but I could see it evolving into the same thing. It's like, wow, this was so good. Like you helped me build my brand so well. Can you just like do it for me now?
yeah,
It's kind of the same thing. I think striking a balance is important. I mean, even at the highest level, just so people could see the vision. Like look at like a company like McKinsey. It's one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's an info business.
yeah,
So if you could strike that balance between dumb for you and or dumb for you, dumb with you, you can kind of go pretty insane.
yeah, yeah, man. That's the more that I mean, we're still new in the grand scheme of things with the agency like doing significant volume. Like, we're still newer to that, but like we'd love to also get some clients like recurring monthly where it's just like strictly consulting, because we are getting to the point where like bandwidth wise, we're being more selective with who we come in and like fully manage sales teams for. But that would be so cool to have like 5, 10 clients, 5K a month. You just meet with them every week or something like that. The margin on that has to go crazy. So
I think what is like Cole doing? It's like 64K a year for the 8-figure boardroom. Like, I mean, that's basically that. That's essentially consulting for 60K a year, and it's
yeah,
like all big ass info businesses.
yeah, that'd be sick, man. How when it comes like to you specifically in sales in your agency, we already talked about like why you're still on these calls, why it doesn't really make sense for you at this time to try to get someone in there. But like, I know you're more of kind of like I'm not going to say introverted, but you're definitely more of like the to yourself kind of guy, similar to me. Like, I'm not just the loudest one in the room drawing attention, all that stuff. I mean, I can talk to people, we can both do that, but like, what have you seen to really help you sales wise, like to close people on your agency that might not see the value from the jump? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I definitely am an introvert, but I think there is like a kind of introvert that knows how to like turn it off for business, and I feel like that's us. I know a lot of these big business owners are introverts, right? Like Elon Musk and stuff. But if you just know like you have to turn it off for certain times. But so I could be social. Um, anyways, for me, like the two biggest things for having a good close rate, I think my close rate's probably like close to 40% at this point. Because I don't even take calls if they're bad quality, so I have like a pretty good close rate. And I do mostly one call closes, which is also pretty rare for an agency. Um, I'd say like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 calls ends up being a 2 call close. But I'm really big on frameworks. I think that helps me a lot. Just having a framework so that I don't go and yap for 45 minutes is really helpful. So like I personally use the closer framework. So using the closer framework has been super helpful. And you could just Google it if you're listening and you don't know what it is. That's been really helpful as a guide. Another framework that I use that actually Julia taught me, my girlfriend, who's a very successful 7-figure coach. It's more so just like current situation, desired situation, bridge the gap. That's also pretty overpowered now that I started using it. I'm like, so where are you now? And like, where do you want to be? Oh, we could do that. It's like pretty simple, especially if you have trust in a personal brand. I'd say the other thing is the personal brand being pretty helpful. Like people now just kind of like know what I do and know that we get results. So I don't really have to convince people that we get results. It's more so I have to convince them that it's a right fit for them. And honestly, the last part of it is that I don't really try to convince people. I more so just like tell them what we do and say like, you can if you want. I don't really pitch. I don't really offer people who aren't a good fit either. I don't like selling, so I don't like taking people on against their will, which I think a lot of sales guys pressure themselves, maybe because they're on a bad offer or the product's not good, or maybe they just have no conviction. Um, like I have a lot of conviction, so I don't need to try and sell people. I'm like, you can come if you want. We do this every day. I don't need to like, and also I don't need you guys. Like I don't need the client. So it's like, that's also part of it. I think if you're operating from scarcity, like people can smell the desperation on you, even through the camera. So I never feel desperate because I'm not desperate. I don't need people like that because we only need a few clients, which is the benefit of running agencies like ours, where you have like big percentage deals, is you get to be picky.
Yeah.
So those are kind of, those things all combine together. The personal brand, the frameworks, and then the lack of desperation. I think those three things counteract the introversion a lot.
Yeah, definitely. The personal brand is a game changer, dude. Like, I mean, I see it all the time. Like, if you, let's say hypothetically, you put a closer into your agency and they started taking all the calls, you'd probably close more deals. You'd probably have shorter LTV. You'd probably have clients that weren't a perfect fit get in because that person is like, people don't get into sales to scrape by. Like they get into sales to make as much money as they can in a lot of cases. And like, if they are only paid when somebody joins, like regardless of if they're a good fit or not, they're going to do their best. Unless they have like a packed calendar and plenty of opportunities. But it sounds like you're not taking 5 sales calls a day, which is just not the case to stick a closer
Couple a
in there.
week, yeah, 2 to 3 a week at most.
Yeah,
I don't need more. You know what I mean? If I'm closing at the rate that I say I'm closing, 30 to 40%, and I have 2 to 3 good quality leads, like that's 2 to 3 clients a month. I can't even handle that.
yeah,
So it's like, it's honestly less. It's like 10
yeah,
a month. So yeah, I think that's usually, and also it depends on the business. Like if I want clients, I actually learned this from Moser. If I want clients, I will just do and go and get clients because it's like fairly easy to get clients when you don't have a lot of capacity. People are like, they want to work with you and you can't take them for a certain amount of time, kind of like a wait list.
hmm,
So like if it's a month where I'm trying to replace some bad clients, um, then I'll just have more sales calls, which is a good piece of value I would share. I know it's not like an agency on our pod, but I learned this from, who did I learn this from? Sean Hanif, GenFlow, $100 million agency. That they categorize their clients into 4 tiers. It's essentially like client portfolio management, which is really important as an agency owner. And it's like the tier 4 clients. There's tier 1 through 4. I don't know the two middle ones, but the tier 4 clients, who are your bottom tier clients, low priority, low energy, etc. Those clients you want to deprioritize and essentially drop and replace them. And the tier 1 clients, you want to prioritize and invest in them. So like, for example, I paid for a LinkedIn consultant last month. I just hired a graphic designer who is starting to do like carousels and graphics. And I'm investing in my priority clients and working on replacing some of our lower priority clients. That's honestly been a game changer for me because I originally thought like all churn's bad churn, but it's not the truth. You need to churn some
yeah,
people. It's called healthy churn. If you're not churning some clients, you're probably not moving the business forward as much as you can be.
yeah. That makes sense, man. A bit
Yeah.
of a question. I'd imagine a lot of your sales calls and your interested prospects, they are coming off of personal brand to some extent, whether it's your Twitter, your newsletter, LinkedIn,
Hmm.
something like that. But something that, and it's kind of a selfish question here, that I think hopefully some other people can take uh, notes from. If you do have someone that comes on, they've been referred to you, they've never seen your personal brand. The person that referred them, like they kind of know, like, and trust them, but like it is the coldest sense of a lead that you can get. It's truly like, I'm looking for information, just I'm not making a decision. What I'm curious with you, like you have all these results with all these clients. What have you found to be the most effective way to show all that in a way that's not like overwhelming? It doesn't come off like, oh, I'm trying to show all my case studies so you believe me. Because we in the agency right now, we have a lot of really, really good results, but we don't have them. I mean, we have like some case studies, like little stuff, but we don't have anything that's like, oh, new client wants to consider us. Like, here's what they need to see. So how do you transfer all that work that you've done in like a succinct way that like doesn't damage your the look that you might have?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's funny. I've seen some other people do like a pitch deck. I don't like that personally. I'll typically, and I'll use the frameworks that I mentioned, but typically the sales call will usually get to a breaking point, like kind of towards the middle of the call, where it's like at this point I need to kind of bridge the gap and show them what we have or show them a client related to them. And there's a bit of nuance there, but especially if there's a client that's like in the same industry or an adjacent niche, what I'll do is I'll just share my screen. And what I like to, it's kind of a psyop in a way, but it's just the easiest way to do it. I'll go and pull up. I'll share my screen and I'll just click through my like raw browser that I work on, and I'll click through. I have on Twitter, I have a client list. It says clients, so I'll click the client list. I'll scroll through my clients, click the biggest client, or click like a client that's related to them, or show them a few clients. I'll be like, so yeah, this is what what the content will look like. Um, and as an aside, I have Figma processes built out. This is actually a great piece of information. Is I have Figma processes built out for what the funnels look like for every client. So, for example, what the funnel looks like for pretty much all our clients, it's a four-piece funnel on Figma. It's the birdhouse, what we do, tweets, threads, LinkedIn, everything like that. Setters do this, book calls, all of this stuff. This is how you're gonna convert closers, product, school, WAP, etc. So I have it built out on like a bit of a Figma file that I can show you. I'll usually pull that up and I'll run through each step with a different piece of a different Chrome tab. So like I'll be like, okay, so this is what the content will look like. Scroll through the clients. Then you'll go into like booking calls, and I'll pull up literally the internal tracking sheets, like the Google Sheets. I'll be like, this is what the tracking looks like. As you can see, this is one of our more recent clients who just did 100K last week, last week. I did have a client who did 100K last week. And I'll be like, look, he booked this many calls. And I scroll through the Google Sheets. I'll be like, and then the closer. So then I'll scroll through the CRM. And then, your school program or whatever, I'll literally go to some of our clients' schools and I'll be like, yeah, so as you can see, we have a ton of clients with school or a ton of clients with WAP, whatever. And I'll just make it as customized to them as possible. So if I'm talking to you, for example, I'm going to pull up, if I have another sales client, I'm going to pull up the sales client that we're crushing it for, then the Google Sheet of that client that's crushing it, the CRM of the client that's crushing it, and the school community. And I'll just like make it so like, so believable and so relatable that they're like, I could just copy, I could envision my CRM, my profile, and my school community there. And it's so easy. They're like, wow, this is sick. Wow, that's awesome. Because
Yeah.
it's so raw. If you do a pitch deck, it feels so prepared that they're skeptical. If you do it raw, oh yeah, bro, let me just share my screen. I'll just go through a couple of our clients' stuff. And they're like, yeah, that would be great. So they know it's raw and real.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come with like a pitch deck or something super scripted, they see right through it. It's 2024. You can't do that anymore. So yeah, that's basically the sales agency process.
That's so hard to outsource to someone too. They have to, like, I find that now with either my community or the agency. It's like we have all these internal resources and tracking mechanisms and all that, but it's like it's so much that like bringing someone new in, like it's very difficult to show them how and when to use all that different stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but that's
And it's also the conviction. You can't teach it. Like I
Yeah.
have so much energy and conviction when I'm doing it, and I'm so excited about it that they could feel that energy. I think it was you or someone said that like sales is just a transfer of energy. Like people could feel your energy and your vibes. If you don't have the vibes, the energy, the conviction, they're done for. Like you've probably gotten on some calls with some sales kids. It's just like low vibe, low vibration, the blurry camera. They have no conviction. They're not really energetic. They're just kind of reading through a script. It's horrifying. When I
Yeah.
do it, it's like high energy. I'm in my nice setup. I've got the birdhouse behind me. Like people are, I'm getting them hyped a little bit by accident. I'm not like trying to be a hype man, like cringe. I'm just like naturally excited about it. So um,
Yeah.
I think that is just as important as everything else. So it is pretty hard to teach, to be fair.
Yeah. What okay, so you didn't always have banger client results. Like back when you first started the agency, you obviously had to do things a little bit different. You said you were charging like
Mm-hmm.
1,000 a month retainer. Like
Mm-hmm.
how was your selling different then? Because I'm sure it was really different.
Yeah. So, in stage one, when I was on Upwork, Upwork is just Upwork. You win the job. You never have to jump on a call. Stage two was like email and then Twitter DMs. Those guys, to be honest, I was coming in with a guarantee. So I would come in with like some sort of follower guarantee or like a really low price that it was like basically a no brainer. So like I remember one of my first Twitter ghostwriting clients was $1,000 a month, no percentage, and it was like a grind. He basically negotiated the shit out of me. I had no leverage, so I had to accept. So I just accepted him at $1,000, and I got like two good screenshots out of it. In terms of it's not even testimonials, just screenshots of social proof. And I brought that to my next sales call, and I was able to charge a little bit more. I actually did some free trials that I was able to get some screenshots. So I believe in doing like basically the dirty, cheap, borderline free work to get some sort of social proof so that you have some sort of leverage. And what I was able to do is with all of that, I was able to move on to that 3 or 4K a month client, and I was able to convince them at the 3 or 4K a month. And I basically was like, what was my guarantee? Like you'll get 5,000 followers in 90 days guaranteed for like 3K a month or whatever. And that was the client who I mentioned who hit 100K plus. So once I had that testimonial, that's when I started doing the social
Yeah.
proof selling, is what I'll call it. So it was honestly a grind, and it always is. But that's like entrepreneurship in a nutshell.
Yeah. You just you gotta fight and claw for that first piece of proof that you can do what you say you can do. And then you need to position that or learn how to position that in a way where people aren't going to people are going to believe it, and they're going to believe that it's possible for them. And that's what one thing I talk to like the sales reps about too. It's like the first role to get as a closer, whether you have sales experience or not, is I'm sorry, the hardest role to get is the first one. And then once you have that and you can say, oh yeah, I closed 300K last month on this offer, you go almost anywhere you want. And then especially, everyone feels different one way or another about like name dropping, but if on a sales resume, like you can name drop because it's like the company that I work for. But dude, you get a couple big names under your belt. Same with the agency. Like
Yeah,
it
especially in a
just
small industry, like an industry like info is so small. It's like
yeah
you could basically work if you work for any top 50 guy, you're pretty much set. Uh, I honestly don't think enough people utilize their previous experience in their personal brand, and maybe I need to give a personal brand profile building masterclass to the serial sales community, because I feel like one in every 50 to 100 reps that I've seen apply have like you know 200K closed, 200K closed, this, that, and the other in their bio, and it's like super oriented around sales. I
yeah
just feel like a lot of these sales guys are either they have some other random offer that they tried and failed, or they just have nothing related to sales, or it's a personal account. One in 100 have an actual sales closer setter related profile, and I always hire the person with the profile. It's just
yeah
like you could tell that they do it. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I mean, a lot of people in this space they operate off of like Facebook as well, which I would say, ideally you have a sales branded profile, but like, dude, you really don't need that. It's like it's more so about like the profile will usually work against you more than it'll work for you if you're a sales rep. So like if your profile, the banner is like you with the boys with like beers flipping the
Yeah,
camera off, like
yeah,
it's gonna leave a certain impression. But like,
yeah.
I mean, dude, I would rather hire just like like if I just saw this dude, and he sends an application and it looks good, and I go to his profile and it's just like a normal dude who uses Twitter. He's not promoting anything. He's not tweeting. He's just retweeting. Like I would rather consider someone that didn't mess it up than someone that is like showing red flags already. You know?
Yeah, that's true. There's more you can do wrong than you can do right as a sales guy. It's like just don't have a horrible profile. If you have an
Yeah.
average like no red flag profile, I'd rather you have no profile than a bad profile because at least you're not getting disqualified.
Yeah. And the thing is now, dude, a lot of these guys that are creating sales brands, like, dude, they're doing it wrong, man. Like it's very like cringy. It's very like Wolf of Wall
Well,
Street.
a lot of these guys get into sales for the wrong reasons, and like it's not even that they're necessarily doing it wrong; it's that they're wrong. Like you're just not the
Yeah.
right person, bro. Like you need to like fix your shit, fix your life,
Yeah.
bro. Like uh, I will say, like a profile, there is a lot you can do wrong, but you could do if you niche down as a salesperson. Maybe not niche down, but just like if you want to work for like a certain person, you can do like you can game it. Like for example, I just hired for a fitness offer, and like you're getting DQ'd if you're fat. So like if your picture in your profile is like if your header is like a football like college football and your profile is like XD1 athlete turns closer, some shit like that, like you're obviously getting put on an interview for an ex athlete's offer or a fitness offer, right? Like same thing if your values like if you have a Christian if you sell to Christians and your bio literally has a cross in it, guess what? Your instant interview. Like
Yeah.
you can game it that makes it work for you if you're shooting or gunning for a certain offer. Like just right before you reach out, just fucking fix your profile. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but it's also like we have entrepreneur brain. A lot of guys don't have entrepreneur brain, and I think that's the big thing is you have to have entrepreneur brain as a closer, even if you're not technically an entrepreneur.
Yeah, dude. Some of this stuff, man, and not everyone thinks the same. And I feel like I've had this conversation with you actually. Maybe with someone else. I'm like getting deja vu right now. But like I'll have people reach out to me and something super, super obvious. It's like, hey man, do you think I should put this in my resume? And it's clearly like something that would help them. And I'm like why are you taking the time to message me and wait for a response when you know what the answer is going to be already? Like just do it. Or like, hey man, do you think I should apply to this job? Yes. Like you don't lose
Yeah,
anything. Like you can only gain. So why are you waiting, like sitting and waiting for an approval to do something you know you should be doing?
yeah. I think the reason we feel like that too is me and Julia talk about it all the time. Is like I think once you're a CEO, you just get so frustrated by dumb questions because time is already so limited. Like how annoyed do you feel when an employee asks you the dumbest fucking question ever? Like a question that they should be able to answer themselves with like a simple Google search or something, or like
Yeah.
obvious shit, right? Like I think that's why once you're CEO, your tolerance for the average person. I guess that's the only downside of being both B2B and B2C is you have B2B brain dealing with B2C people. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you get very frustrated. You're like, isn't it odd? But you don't realize that in the event of you scaling your business so high and you're getting so much, income and like you're just crushing it, you're just elevating to such a level that you don't even realize that you used to be that person.
Yeah.
So I think that's honestly like a CSM hiring tip is like you need to get someone with insane empathy and tolerance.
I one time I asked a question somewhere. I can't remember if it was in like a work context or a hobby or something, but basically I asked a question and then somebody created a GIF of them searching on Google my question, getting the answer, and like they copied and pasted the GIF and sent it back to me. And I was like, all right, like that's a sign for me to like start thinking about the questions that I'm asking. And so like, dude, when that I can't remember what like who did that, but like after that happened and it was in some sort of like public context, I was like, all right, dude, I'm gonna think about these questions before I send them. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's never,
You also realize like once you kind of once you hit this level where you're like annoyed by certain things, you realize like your earning potential floor is so high because you realize that you are not that needy person. Like just being not needy, self starter, can answer your own questions, super proactive and innovative, like you'll immediately have like a bare minimum 6-figure earning potential. Like you'll never be
yeah,
below that. you start to realize like the 99% of people just like don't answer their own freaking questions.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Problem solvers, they get better results. They get them faster. Like it's a certain type of that's what people are looking for over everything, man. They're looking for someone that's capable. That's why you and I both like we're looking for culture fit first, and then I don't experience is nice, but a lot of what we're doing can be taught to the right person. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It's also when you're doing something that's like never, not necessarily been done too often, you pretty much just need someone who's a culture fit so you could teach them. Like we're not exactly, big four accounting firms, banks. Like this isn't something
yeah,
you could just copy paste. It's usually we're making it up as we go. So we just
yeah,
need someone who can vibe and like learn.
exactly. Well, I know you and I both have some work to get to. We're pushing up on time here, but I wanted to drop in here about the event that we're having in September, Austin, Texas. Marcos is going to be there with, uh, is it one of your writers on your team?
Yeah, we'll be there with one of our senior copywriters. Shout out Lutz.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So Marcos will be there. A lot of guys like Marcos that run agencies coaching that hire salespeople pretty frequently that have clients. They're going to be there. So I'll drop it in the description to check out the site, check out the agenda. You said yourself it looks pretty fun.
Yeah, it does look really fun. I'm like pretty surprised. I've been to a couple of these, and none have as kind of diverse and loaded of an agenda. I'm hyped for day one.
yeah, so it's not just like a bunch of talking heads on stage. Like there might be a little bit of that. Marcos might be one of the talking heads to give you guys
Yap,
like social
Yap
media.
Olympics.
But yeah, so we'll drop the details there, and then if you guys are wanting to connect with Marcos, I guess is Twitter the best place to send people?
Yeah, yeah. It's Marcos Ruiz, ITS Marcos Ruiz on Twitter, on all
Cool.
platforms.
Sweet. So I'll link that below as well. And then, dude, I appreciate you coming on. I think this was pretty insightful. We talked a little about agency, business owner, but also sales stuff. But I think it's good for people to see the how someone like you or someone like me looks at applications or interviews or potentially hiring people. Like it's all very insightful. So
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on, man.
totally. Yeah, this is going up in full on Twitter with timestamps and LinkedIn. It's gonna be fire. Yeah, I'm gonna honestly bring a short list. I'm gonna make a short list from your event. I'm gonna bring like a notebook. I'm gonna get everybody's sales guys that go to that. They're gonna be basically first in line for the next like 5 or 6 roles for our clients because then I'll have face to name. You know what I mean? I'm not putting anyone on the
Yeah,
list that's a dweeb. So
yeah. It's gonna be like a scouting event. Like you're gonna be walking around with a clipboard.
literally,
That's
literally going to be a scouting event. So that I don't have to tweet again. You know how it goes with these tweets, man. The DMs
yeah,
just get nuked.
yeah. Well, shoot, man, I appreciate you coming on. We'll see you
Hell yeah.
in Austin in September, and
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sure you'll get some messages from this. But it's good
Yeah.
talking.
Cheers.